Okay, in this recording, I am going to talk about ideas connected to the use theory of meaning and the lessons or the content of the study guide of Module 6. So ito, balik tayo dito sa theory of meaning. Okay, so after the midterms, dito na tayo sa part ng course na titingnan natin sunod-sunod yung iba't ibang theories of meaning. Okay? So, ngayon sa simula, iuugnay ko yung tanong na nandito sa slide na ito, what is the theory of meaning sa ilang mga bagay? Una, doon sa isa sa mga unang recording o unang lecture videos na binigay ko sa inyo, yung Philosophy of Language lecture ni Professor Kate Ritchie, where she talks about foundational meaning questions. So the first thing is that a theory of meaning is a systematic answer to the question by virtue of what are words or linguistic expressions meaningful. Okay? So ito yung tinatawag na foundational meaning questions. So simula pa lang ng Philosophy 195, lumalabas na yan. Tapos dun sa reading nyo, sa ilalim ng Module 6, yan din yung sinasabi ni Horwich sa bandang simula nung chapter na pinabasa ko sa inyo. So sabi niya, what is the use theory of meaning that I'm going to present to you? Tapos yung sagot niya, it's something that answers the question, in virtue of which of its underlying properties does a word come to possess the particular meaning it has? Ang sagot ng use theorist, in virtue of which underlying property, medyo obvious, ang sagot ay use. Ang magiging sunod na tanong doon ay, ano ang ibig sabihin nila ng use? Sila kan pag ginagamit niya yung use theories of meaning, yung salitang use ay palaging nasa loob ng quotation marks. Medyo pinapaliwanag naman yan kung bakit at pag-uusapan pa natin yan sa mga darating na araw. Okay, so una, a theory of meaning is supposed to give a complete, full, systematic answer to the question, in virtue of what, which of its underlying properties does a word come to possess the particular meaning it has. Okay, so ano yung pangunahing batayan? Kung bakit naging uh, makahulugan, na ibig sabihin ay makahulugang wika, makahulugang salita, yung ibang mga tunog na naririnig natin at yung mga ibang marka na nakikita natin sa papel, sa computer screen, etc. Okay? So, in one sense, we have already been talking about the theory of meaning, namely yung RTM. Okay? So, inapag-usapan natin pre-midterm, medyo ang focal point ay RTM. Ang RTM ay hindi talagang teorya na binuo from scratch, meaning philosophers were asking, okay, so how come words are meaningful? Where does linguistic meaningfulness come from? And then they come up with an answer, and then from that germ of an answer, from that core idea, they develop a full-blown theory. RTM is not like that. RTM is often like the formalized or the more systematic expression of an intuitive answer of what words refer to. Kasi pagka tinanong mo, how come words are meaningful? Yung mabilis sa sagot na RTM, kasi may katumbas na mga bagay, pangyayari, tao, at kung ano-ano pa sa mundo yung mga linguistic items. So yung kahulugan ng mga linguistic items ay kapareha ng mga bagay-bagay sa mundo. Tapos nakita natin maraming problema yung RTM. Miski yung tanong na, okay, pag sinabi natin yung R dyan sa RTM, reference, how does reference work? As you know, there is a descriptivist answer, and there are other answers apart from the descriptivist one. Okay, so, isasantabi natin, nakita natin ang daming problema ng RTM. Okay? So maghanap tayo, magtitingin tayo ngayon ng iba't ibang theory pa. Iba pang sagot sa tanong na in virtue of which of its underlying properties does the word come to possess the particular meaning it has. Okay? Meron pang isang intuitive answer na actually medyo ah consistent naman itong naive explanation na to na how are words meaningful. Um, So there's a naive explanation. It's a knee-jerk action. Sometimes I think people assume this without thinking about it a lot, especially if they're not doing philosophy, which is perfectly acceptable because that's like the normal state of people anyway. But on the naive explanation, um, words are meaningful because there is something, there is some entity um, that makes it meaningful. Okay? Parang merong bagay na nag-exist na doon ang gagaling yung meaningfulness ng mga linguistic expressions. So, ang isang sagot dyan, yung pinaka-basic answer, which Lycan talks about in the first chapter in the section of the book where when he starts talking about theories of meaning, is the ideational theory. And as Lycan tells you, the whipping boy or the thinker, the history of philosophy, to whom this idea that a lot of people think is foolish, okay, so this foolish ideational theory idea is usually attributed to John Locke. Okay? So dito kasi, meaning is an entity. What entity can it be? Okay, it's ideas in the mind. Okay? Ideas in the mind are private. And if they're private, it's not clear how we can even know ideas in other people's minds. It's very clear that we can know ideas in our own minds, but ideas in other people's minds, parang medyo mas mahirap yun. Tapos merong mas sophisticated answer na entity theory, itong propositional theory. Itong propositional theory, okay, so meaning is an entity, the meaning entity is the proposition. A proposition is a language-independent abstract item. Ang pinaka medyo madaling explanation na ibibigay ko dito na mas madaling maintindihan ng philo major, ang mga propositions ay parang platonic forms. So, they exist in a realm that is not the same as like the physical plane where our bodies are. But they exist as abstract entities. Actually, yung abstract items of thought hindi naman yun ganun ka-weird eh. Kasi actually, pag inisip mo yung abstract ideas like numbers, like the number two, is that something that exists like apples? Right? There can be two apples, two trees, two people, two cats. But the number two, the concept of there being two, it's not something that exists as an object, but it can exist as an abstract item, like a platonic form or a proposition. Ang pangunahing pagkakaiba ng proposition sa platonic form, ang platonic form ay parang nag-iipon ng maraming mga iba't ibang particular, so like the form of a chair or the form of the good, in forms like particular instances. Propositions are meant to be atomic. They are meant to be not unified in the sense that platonic forms are. Atomic is the best way that I can describe it, meaning ang proposition kasi yung mas madaling yung ang ibig sabihin ng atomic dito ay ang mga proposition ay parang mga pira-piraso. Hindi yung parang platonic form na isang malaking ideya na bumubuo at pinanggagalingan ng maraming ibang pagsasakatawan ng mga iba't ibang bagay. So pag sinabi natin na abstract entity yung proposition, so pira-pirasong, maliliit na pirasong abstract entity yun. Halimbawa, the concept of the number two, the concept of addition, yung mga ganon. Tapos, itong propositions kasi, minsan ang ginagamit na salita dito sa English ay thinkables, yung maaaring maisip o yung maaaring sabihin kasi yung proposition ay may mental side, tapos meron din siyang linguistic side. May mga ibang mga tao yung proposition ay iniuugnay sa Phrygian concept of sense. So in that sense, propositions are abstract but objective. Okay? So they're not private picturizations. Actually, makikita mo dito sa meaning entity, where the entity is an idea in the mind that corresponds to a picturization. And this meaning entity correspond to propositions. This corresponds to the Fregean notion of sense. So medyo may ganito yung pagkakaiba nitong dalawang magkaibang entity theory of meaning. Okay? So, hindi ko na paparaanan pa, kasi tinalakay naman ni Laika yan sa kanyang libro, yung mga problema dito sa entity theory of meaning. At saka may dahilan kung bakit ang tawag dito ay naive explanation. Kasi marami siyang hindi kayang gawin, marami siyang hindi kayang ipaliwanag. Ano yung mga yon? Okay? So, we go to the next part of what the theory of meaning is. So, like I've been saying, a theory of meaning is something that gives a systematic answer to the question of what is the property that makes linguistic expressions meaningful in a particular way. Okay? Bukod pa dun, meron pang isang dapat gawin yung theory of meaning. A theory of meaning is supposed to explain meaning facts. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan kayang ipaliwanag ng theory of meaning yung meaning facts. Kasi ganun yung mga theory. A theory is like a model or a map. It's supposed to help us navigate a certain domain of reality. And in this case, we're talking about linguistic reality. So language facts. Okay? So, meaning facts or language facts, siguro yung pwede kong ipalit dito. Nakukuha din natin to kay Laikan, yung unang paragraphs pa lang, first few paragraphs of his book. Ito na yung pinag-uusapan niya. So, una, some sounds and some marks are meaningful. Others are not. Di ba? May mga tunog na hindi naman yun makahulugan, hindi yun wika. Pero may mga nakasulat, minsan kahit na hindi mo maintindihan, di ba? Hindi ka naman marunong magbasa ng baybayin, pero makahulugan yun. Wika yun, di ba? Kahit hindi makahulugan sa'yo kasi hindi mo alam basahin. Pero may objective meaning yun, nalabas dun sa private ideas mo. Okay? So, that's the first linguistic fact. There are strings of marks or noises in the air that are meaningful. Okay? The second one is that we sometimes say that two distinct expressions are synonymous. Okay? So for instance, especially when we talk about dictionary meanings, the English words slim and thin are synonymous. But there may be differences. Slim has a more positive connotation to it, but in terms of literal meaning, the words thin and slim are synonymous. Okay? So other times we say that a single expression is ambiguous. Kaya nga 'di ba mahalaga yung tinatawag na disambiguation. Na ano nga bang tinutukoy pagka sinabing pagka sinabing pagka sinabing walang pasok. Halimbawa, anong ibig sabihin doon? Ibig sabihin, ba hindi lamang magkikita sa... So may ambiguity doon. Yung single linguistic expression doon ay yung dalawang Tagalog words. Walang pasok. So, minsan may ambiguity kasi ano bang ibig sabihin noon? Ibig sabihin ba noon kagaya ng ginagawa natin ngayon na walang pasok ay ibig sabihin no face-to-face. Although yung naging labas ng no face-to-face ay minsan yung kagaya ng nangyari sa pandemic, kagaya ng nangyayari pagkatapos ng pandemic, ang ibig sabihin ng no face-to-face ay hindi tayo nagkikita sa classroom, ako at ang mga estudyante, mga teacher, mga estudyante, para mag-seat work, para mag-minor requirements, para mag-reporting, para mag-lecture ang teacher. Hindi yun nangyayari, pero may requirements pa rin. At pag merong major requirement, kagaya ng midterm exam, final exam, face-to-face pa rin. Okay? So, ang ibig sabihin ba ng walang pasok Halimbawa, bumabagyo, walang kuryente, wala talaga. Walang asynchronous, walang new requirement. We'll take that as a non-school day. So some other times, a single expression can be ambiguous and we are seeking for disambiguation. And one question is that, how does that work? How come that happens? So, our theory of meaning is supposed to answer all that. Okay. So, ito, mahalaga ito sa reasoning tsaka sa logic. We sometimes say that one expression's meaning is contained in another, or that one sentence entails another. Okay? So, yung halimbawa ni Lycan dun sa first part niyan, one expression's meaning is contained in another, though the word doe, D-O-E, the meaning of that word contains the meaning of the words female and deer. Kasi doe yung tawag sa babaeng usa. Tapos, or that one sentence entails another. Okay, so entailment, logical entailment. So if we say, um, it is raining and it is cloudy entails that it is cloudy. So, ibig sabihin, merong linguistic and logical consequences yung ibang linguistic items. In my example, sentence that contains a conjunction. There are two parts connected by the word and. Okay? Kaya sinabi ko na medyo katuloy ito ng logic. Huling meaning fact, hindi naman ito yung huling meaning fact na pag-uusapan, pero mahalaga ito, okay? There's this competence that humans have about language. So competent language users of whatever language have an instantaneous and almost effortless capacity to produce and understand a seemingly limitless number of new sentences. So either sentences have never, either sentences they have never encountered before, halimbawa naisip na dati, nakasulat na sa libro, pero hindi mo pa nababasa yung librong yon. Tapos sa unang beses na binasa mo yung sentence na yon, halimbawa yung libro ay nakasulat sa Ingles at competent user ka ng English, maintindihan mo yung sentence instantaneously and almost without effort. Okay? Tapos kung meron halimbawa na nagsasalita sa harap mo na bumuo ng isang pambihira at hindi pa nabibigkas kahit kailanman na pangusap, maintindihan mo pa rin yun. Maintindihan mo pa rin. So, it seems to be very clear that humans, we have this, right? So any theory of meaning must explain this and must be fully consistent with it, right? So to recap, a theory of meaning is supposed to do at least two things. One is answer the foundational meaning question in virtue of what properties are linguistic expressions meaningful, and two, a theory of meaning must explain the meaning facts. Okay? So, yun yung mga requirements. So, dito tayo mapupunta sa use theory of meaning. The use theory of meaning is, I would say, the most radical rejection of entity theories of meaning. So, sinasabi ni Wittgenstein yan yung isa sa mga pinakamahalagang ideya niya sa philosophical investigations. Na itong mga pilosopo kasi, mahilig magtanong yung parang mga Socratic questions. What is justice? What is friendship? What is piety? What is meaning? Pagka nagtanong ka ng what is blank, naghahanap ka ng entity na katumbas na pwede mong ituro iyon. Pwedeng yung gusto mong ituro ay bagay na makikita sa mundo o abstract entity nga, kagaya ng mga propositions. Pero parang naghahanap ka ng pwede mong maituro. Ang sinasabi ni Wittgenstein, walang ganun, wag ka malito. Okay? When we ask the question, what is meaning, we should not be deceived by the words seeming to point us in the direction of looking for an entity. Because meaning is not an entity, right? Linguistic meaning is something that arises in rule govern social activities. Yun yung pinakamabilis na sagot ni Wittgenstein dyan. So kaya nga yung builder A and his assistant B yung isa sa mga pangunahing halimbawa. So sinasabi ni Wittgenstein na yung meaning, so ito ay medyo objection, lalo na sa mga palaisip kagaya ni Bertrand Russell, na ang pamamaraan ng pag-philosophy of language ay kukuha ng chalk at may isusulat na pangungusap sa blackboard at ang nakasulat doon na halimbawa ay yung isa sa mga paboritong sentence ni Russell. The present king of France is bald. Yun yung isa sa mga pangungusap na inanalyze ni Bertrand Russell. Tapos, yung sentence na yun parang ihihiwalay dun sa konteksto kung saan nagsasalita yung mga tao. Yung sinasabi ni Wittgenstein, wag mong ihiwalay yung mismong sentence na pwede mong isulat sa blackboard sa kung ano yung ginagawa ng tao. So yung use, tinutukoy nun yung human activity. We use words, right? We use words in the way that we live. Words are inseparable from human activity. Yun yung unang insight ni Wittgenstein. So, sinasabi niya, it is easy to, dito sa philosophical investigations, remark number 19, it is easy to imagine a language consisting only of orders and reports in battle, or a language consisting only of questions and answers for answering yes and no. Actually, yung pangalawang ganyan, merong ano yan may laro yung 20 questions. So you can only ask yes or no questions and you're supposed to guess what you're asking about in 20 questions or less. Or else you lose. So actually may linguistic and actual game yon yung 20 questions. And then enumerate others. And to imagine a language means to imagine a form of life. So, dito, sa katuloy nitong kasunod ng remark number 19, hindi kasunod na kasunod, pero yung remark number 23, dito, sasabihin ni Wittgenstein na napakarami nating pwedeng gawin, hindi lang pwedeng gawin, napakaraming nating ginagawa gamit ang wika. Na meron tayong mga binibigkas sa pang-araw-araw nating buhay, hindi lang tayo, kundi yung mga ibang tao, lahat ng tao sa buong mundo, um, marami silang ginagawa gamit ang wika at hindi maihihiwalay ang kahulugan ng mga sinasabi nila dun sa ginagawa nila. Okay? So, ang problema, ayon kay Wittgenstein, ang problema ng mga pilosopo, nakukulong sila dun sa ilang mga bagay na ginagawa ng tao. Halimbawa, paglalarawan or description. Yun talagang nagustuhan ng mga pilosopo yun. Okay, yung activity of describing. Ang sinasabi ni Wittgenstein, ang sinasabi ni Wittgenstein ay, yes, it's true. Describing things is one of the things that we do, but it's not the only thing. Okay? So pala, yung may parang slogan si Wittgenstein na parang look and see. Tignan mo kung paano ginagamit ng mga tao ang wika, kung anong ginagawa nila. Magkakaiba. Walang iisang sagot. Kasi ang sinasabi, having mentioned Platonic forms earlier, when we ask the Socratic questions like what is meaning, what is piety, what is justice, we are looking for a single unifying answer. Right? Itong sinasabing meaning as use, ito ang isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit ang use ay inside quotation marks. Use is not a single abstract thing we can summarize in a neat description. Okay? So, so sinasabi ni Wittgenstein, there's a multiplicity of language games. So, bibigay siya ng halimbawa dito, ng maraming mga halimbawa dito sa remark number 23. So, sinasabi niya, giving orders and obeying them. So, ayan na yon, di ba? So, kagaya ng orders and reports in battle. Describing the appearance of an object or giving its measurements. This can be a part of a scientific activity. Constructing an object from a description. Okay, so ginagawa siguro ito ng mga architect at mga builders supporting an event. We can probably say journalism is a bit like that. Speculating about an event, forming and testing a hypothesis, presenting the results of an experiment in tables and diagrams, making up a story and reading it, play acting, singing catches, guessing riddles, making a joke, telling it, solving a problem in practical arithmetic, translating from one language to another, requesting, thanking, cursing, greeting, praying. It is interesting to compare the multiplicity of the tools in language and of the ways they are used, the multiplicity of kinds of words and sentence with what logicians have said about the structure of language. So, si Wittgenstein medyo pinagtatawanan niya yung sarili niya dito. Sinasabi niya, itong mga pilosopo, hindi nila naiisip yung napakaraming mga bagay na ginagawa ng mga tao. Napakaraming paraan ng paggamit ng wika. Sabi niya, marami mga pilosopo ang naging bulag dyan, kabilang na ang may akda ng Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus at pinagtatawanan niya yung sarili niya kasi siya yun. Okay, that's the so-called early Wittgenstein. So, ito yung, so the first thing that is important to know about the use theory of meaning is that it is a radical rejection of entity theories of meaning. That's one thing. The second thing is that when Wittgenstein talks about use, this is not a single, unified, abstract thing that you can define. He is referring to, by use, he refers to the multiplicity of human activities that involve linguistic expression. So, yun. So dito, na tayo sa use theory. So ito na yung sinasabi ni Wittgenstein, what is meaning is a misguided question. Kasi una, pag tinanong mo what is meaning, naisip mo na ang meaning ay isang entity. Pangalawa, naisip mo na may isang malinis at malinaw na sagot sa what is meaning. Pero sinasabi niya, pag tinignan mo mabuti, kaya sinasabi niya, look and see at the people doing so many things with words. There is no single unifying thing. There is instead a lot of crisscrossing overlaps in the way that humans use language. So the meaning of a word is its use in social interaction, right? So kaya may picture ng chess piece dito. Ang sinasabi ni Wittgenstein, ang mga linguistic expression ng mga salita at mga pangusap ay parang tokens in chess. We use them when we make a move in a certain social game. Halimbawa, pangangamusta. Halimbawa, pagtawad dun sa tindera pag bumibili ka sa palengke. So, language game iyon, yung language game ng pangangamusta sa kaibigan, yung language game ng pakipagchismisan ay social interaction din. So, pagka may sinasabi tayo sa mga kontekstong iyon, ang ginagawa natin ay parang move sa chess. Parang ganon. So, yun yung analogy. So, words are like game pieces. We use words in a very similar way that we use tokens in a game to make a move. Okay? So, and use is not about isolatable mental states of individuals. So, nawawala yung privacy or yung idea or mental entity as a private thing. So, Wittgenstein is against that. Also, I will not discuss the private language argument in detail because that's outside the scope of like the topic of a use theory of meaning. But the basic idea is that use and language users' mental states are associated with forms of life or social conventions. Yung paggamit at pagbigkas ng mga salita, kabilang na yung kasabay na mental activity. Kasi 'di ba, pag may binibigkas tayo, pag may binabasa tayo, or pag may isinusulat tayo, merong corresponding mental activity yon, 'di ba? May nangyayari sa loob ng kalooban natin, may nangyayari sa loob ng isip natin. Pag nangyayari yon, na magkasabay, may linguistic element, may mental element. Ang sinasabi ni Wittgenstein ay yung dalawang yon, yung linguistic element at mental element, ay hindi maihihiwalay doon sa social conventions. Doon sa forms of life na maituturing na yung mga ginagawa ng mga tao, yung mga samot-saring ginagawa ng mga tao sa araw-araw, pagkagising sila, mulat sila at minsan nagtatrabaho sila, minsan nagpapalipas ng oras, minsan may hinahanap, minsan naliligaw, etc. Okay? So, ito yung isa pang sinasabi ni Wittgenstein ano na medyo nabanggit ko na kanina, there is no one thing in common. Okay? So sinasabi niya, yan yung sinasabi ng mga uh, pilosopo palagi. There must be something in common or they would not be called games. Okay? So sinasabi niya, hindi ganun. Language does not work. Linguistic meaning is something that is not monolithic. It's not something that can easily be summarized or neatly encapsulated in an abstract logical definition, but instead, we have, ito yung isang phrase na pinauso ni Wittgenstein, we have family resemblances. Okay, so yung pagkakapareho ng iba't ibang paraan, gaya ng mga binasa kong halimbawa kanina, speculating about an event, guessing riddles, making a joke, thanking, cursing, greeting, yung mga activities na yun, yung kanilang pagkakapareho in terms of linguistic use ay family resemblance connections. Kasi ang sinasabi niya dito, sa family resemblance kasi, pag halimbawa nagkaroon ng family reunion, tapos nagpa-picture kayong lahat, makikita mo, oo nga, no, magkakamag-anak sila, medyo magkakamukha sila. Parang makikita mo yung mata ng dalawa, pareho, tapos yung isa naman, yung bibig niya kapareho ng isa pa, pero walang essential, the family face. Parang ganon, walang essence, walang core, walang form. Ang makikita lang natin, may order or may similarities because they're crisscrossing connections, right? So what are the crisscrossing connections between? The crisscrossing connections are between different kinds of rule-governed human activity involving linguistic elements. So yun yung tinutukoy ni Wittgenstein dyan. Okay? Tapos ayun nga, babalikan ko na naman yung puntong ito, kaya may picture na naman ng chess piece. Roughly, the idea is that when we know the meaning of a word, if we know how to use it. Okay? So kung alam natin kung paano natin siya gagamitin sa isang partikular na konteksto. Halimbawa yung um, salitang talaga sa paraang ganon na parang ganon yung tono or pag sinulat mo may question mark sa dulo. So paano yan ginagamit? Ano yung move na ginagawa mo? Well, depende kung nakikipagkamustahan ka, medyo pareho yan sa kung nakikipagchismisan ka, o ipinapakita mo dun sa kausap mo na hindi ka naniniwala. Sinasabi mo sa kanya na kababalaghan yan, sinasabi mo hindi yan totoo. Okay? So, the conclusion or the bottom line is that meaning is not an entity. So it instead, linguistic meaning is about having the ability to use linguistic terms in the right way. Okay? So it's a mistake to try and find the place, essence, or form of meaning outside of particular instantiations of meaningful sentences. So, ang mas gusto ni Wittgenstein, tignan natin yung mga iba't ibang konteksto kung saan ginagamit ng mga tao ang wika. Eh, dun matatagpuan yung tinatawag na linguistic meaning. Hindi dun sa abstract, artificial gathering of ideas and concepts and speculation of many philosophers, including his earlier, his past self. Yung tinatawag na early Wittgenstein associated with the Tractatus. Okay. So ito yung pag pinag-uusapan ni Wittgenstein yung linguistic meaning, lumalabas ito pang isa pang pinauso niya na salita na language games. Okay? So ito yung kinuha ko itong quote mula sa slide na ito dun sa libro ni Anthony Kenny na pinamagatang Wittgenstein. Ito ay parang commentary sa karamihan sa philosophical investigations ni um, Wittgenstein. Okay, so basahin natin yung sinasabi ni Kenny. Sabi niya, words, Wittgenstein now insisted, cannot be understood outside the context of non-linguistic human activities into which the use of the language is interwoven. The words plus their behavioral surroundings make up the language game. Words are like tools. Kagaya nung sinabi, isa pa tong analogy. So, words are tools. Their functions differ from one another. but their dissimilarities of function are hidden by their uniform appearance in sound and in print. Okay? Minsan, pareho yung itsura, pareho yung dictionary definition, pero iba yung paraan ng paggamit kasi iba yung move na ginagawa or iba yung laro na uh, 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 na kung saan bahagi iyon ginagamit. Okay? But their dissimilarities of function are hidden by the uniform appearance in sound and print. The way to understand the meaning of a word is to study it in the language game to which it belongs to see how it contributes to the communal activity of group language users. So, yun yung sinasabi niya. So, yung idinadagdag pa ni Wittgenstein dito, the most common form of philosophical nonsense arises not when a word is being used outside any language game at all, but when it is used in a language game other than the one appropriate to it. So, madalas pagbintangan ni Wittgenstein ang mga pilosopo na nalilito lang kayo, hindi lang sa philosophy of language, sa iba pang area ng philosophy, nalilito kasi kayo kasi yung karaniwang ginagamit na mga karaniwang binibigkas ng tao habang nabubuhay sila sa pangkaraniwang buhay nila. Kinukuha nyo, tapos tinatanggal nyo dun sa konteksto, tapos para kayong mga alien na nabamangha. Na ba, ano kaya ibig sabihin nun? Pero actually, pag dinignan, pagka hindi mo dini-contextualize, pag dinignan mo dun sa mismong konteksto ng rule-governed human activity na yun, malinaw. Kasi nagagamit nila kung ano yung gusto nilang malaman na sunod, kung ano yung gusto gagawin nila na sunod, kung nakipaglaban ba sila, kung tumatawad ba sila sa palengke, kung inaalam ba nila kung ano nangyari sa kapitbahay nila, etc. Okay. Now, balik tayo kay Lycan. Lycan chapter 6. If we were going to meet in the classroom today, we were supposed to do an activity on this. So the activity that we are going to do either in the classroom or online is going to be on use theories. So, so itong dalawang bullet point na dito ay galing sa libro ni Lycan. Kaya kinuha ko ulit yung paggamit niya ng use in quotation mark, use theories. Okay? So, one thing is merong mahalaga dito yung social inference na tinatawag. Kasi nga, kung rule-governed human activity involving language, pagka merong binigkas yung kausap mo, merong kang inferential reasoning, so informal reasoning na makukuha mo kung ano yung ibig niyang sabihin at saka kung ano yung sasabihin mong sunod. Okay? So, on this view, so on the use theory, one sentence entails another not because the two express propositions, one of which is somehow contained in the other, but because it is socially expected that one's neighbor would perform the act of inferring the second sentence from the first. So yung binigay kong halimbawa kanina, it is raining and it is cloudy. So if I say that, as you are about to go out of the building, I may be wanting you to infer that you should bring an umbrella. Okay? So yung parang social inference na pagka may binigkas tayo na ganun, meron tayong ibig sabihin o meron tayong pinupuntirya, kumbaga. Depende sa konteksto. So yun ay nanggagaling sa reasoning process, of course, again involving language, where we draw an inference. Okay? Yung sunod, what you learn when you learn a language is to make moves, to engage in certain kinds of practice, conversational behavior in particular. And primarily, what is taught is the right way to behave when other people make certain kinds of noise and what kinds of noises to make when circumstances are appropriate for doing so. Linguistic practice is governed by highly complex sets of rules. Even though the rules are rarely articulated, small children just pick them up at a colossal rate. Or so the theorist would, or so the use theorist would have us believe. Okay? Pero titignan natin, magkakaroon din ng problema. Kasi kung so yun nakasulat dito, lalo na sa second bullet point. Ito, parang ganito yung punto dyan. If the use theorist is correct, then this is what is happening when we learn language. Pero mamaya, minsan pag-isipan natin, teka, ganun nga ba? Pag tinitingnan, pag inoobserbahan mo kung, halimbawa, paano matuto ng wika ang isang bata? Kumpara sa paano matuto ang isang tao ng isang laro. Kasi game nga yung analogy eh. So if you look at that, later on, people who are skeptical about use theory will ask questions about this. So makikita natin yan sa objections. Okay? So punta na tayo sa objections. Okay, ito yung dalawang objection na pagtutuan na natin ng mansin. Baka may oras tayo, babalikan natin yung iba, pero mahalaga itong dalawa. Okay? So, nilagay ko naman yung page number dyan. Si Lycan palagi may objection number pagka iniisa-isa niya yung mga objections about isang chapter. So, hindi ko na lang binigay yung number, pero binigay ko yung page number sa inyo. Hindi ko binigay yung objection number. Ang ibinigay ko ay page number para makita nyo kung saan yung pinapaliwanag. Okay? So, ang tanong ay, kaya ba talagang ipaliwanag ng use theorist yung kakayahan nating umunawa ng novel sentences, ng new sentences? Kasi kanina isa yun sa mahalagang meaning fact, di ba? Competent language users have an instantaneous and almost effortless ability to understand new sentences when they encounter it. To understand new sentences or even produce new sentences themselves. But if you look at moves in a game, it doesn't seem to work like that. Halimbawa, yung chess, kahit marunong ka mag-chess, kahit alam mo yung rules, kahit alam mo lahat ng pwedeng legitimate move ng knight, ng rook, ng pawn, etc. Minsan, pag may bagong laro, tapos may Maverick player na meron siyang bagong move, pag ginawa nyo, hindi mo maintindihan ng kasing bilis na maunawaan mo pagka may bumigkas ng pambihirang pangungusap dyan sa tabi. Yung kakayahan nating umintindi ng wika, hindi siya comparable kasi mas mabilis at saka mas madali. Parang yung pag-unawa ng new moves in a game, hindi ganun kabilis. Okay? Lalo na pag-usapan natin yung isang halimbawa na palaging binabanggit ni Wittgenstein, yung chess. Okay? So, parang ang sinasabi ng objection na ito ay, kaya ba talaga ipaliwanag ng use theorist itong kakayahan natin na makaunawa at makabagkas ng mga bagong pangungusap? Kasi parang ang conclusion ng skeptic ay parang hindi. Parang ganon. Yun yung sinasabi niya din sa first bullet point on this objection slide. Yung pangalawa naman, many rule-governed social activities do not centrally involve the kind of meaning that linguistic expressions have. Because, again, okay, medyo kadikit ito, pag tinignan mo yung chess move at saka tennis shot, wala yun equivalent ng meaning ng mga pangusap na binibigkas natin. Kasi hindi naman ganun yung function ng chess move tsaka tennis shot. So, dito sa objection na to, um, inaatake yung analogy ni Wittgenstein at ng mga use theories sa pagitan ng mga game at mga linguistic expression. Kasi parang sinasabi, kasi yung pangunahing idea ni Wittgenstein yung analogy or parallel between linguistic expressions and games. So the theme of this objection is to cast doubt on that analogy or to exert pressure on that analogy to see where, when, and how it breaks down. Okay? So tandaan nyo lang, palagi, pagka may philosophical view, kagaya nito, ang standard move ay, una intindihin natin kung ano yung sinasabi. Pagka naiintindihan na natin, ang sunod na step ay mag-object tayo. Maghahanap tayo ng weaknesses ng theory na yan. Minsan kahit na medyo pabor ka dun sa theory, susunod na step pa rin yung paghahanap ng objection at paghahanap ng weaknesses. Bakit? Kasi kahit napupusuan mo yung theory na yan, kailangan mo makita kung saan yung mga weak parts niya para yun yung kailangan mong dagdagan at palakasin. So this is like a standard philosophical move where the first step is to try to understand. what the view is about. And then the second is to pose objections, formulate objections, or look at existing objections and look at how much it undermines the theory, look at how well somebody who likes the theory can respond, etc. So, ganun yung timpla ng usapan kaya dumarating tayo dito sa argumentative section. Kaya nga, sa napansin nyo, yung textbook ni Lycan ng Philosophy of Language ay statement of the theory, statement of the view, objections, statement of the view, objections. So, ganun palagi. Okay, so that will be the end of our lesson, at least in this recording.